Hey everybody, it's Aquaman, and it's 2021. So, how did I get started hiking? Stay tuned and find out. See you soon. Welcome back. Okay, today it's January 1st, 2021, and 4:30 in the morning, and I'm out for a 10-mile conditioning hike. So what is a conditioning hike for me? It's basically strapping on what we call a plate carrier with a 30-pound plate to simulate carrying my pack. And since I live in Central Florida, I don't get to be able to get away to the woods as often as I like to hike. So I just condition with 3 days a week out in the urban environment to try to strengthen my trail legs as soon as possible. All right, so real quick side note, I've already passed about a dozen people this morning on their way home from parties. So it's been kind of fun watching all the drunks stagger home. So, all right, well, let's get into the story, shall we? How did I get into hiking? Well, truthfully, I was a Cub Scout, Weeblo, and Boy Scout, and even attained the rank of Eagle Scout. So I had lots of hiking and camping experience when I was younger. Now I grew up in Kentucky, so that meant I had a lot more time in the woods than I do now living in Central Florida. But you know, like they say with a bike, you know, you never forget how to ride. Well, once you've gotten hiking and camping in your blood, it's hard to forget how to do it. So, my first camping trip, or not first camping, but actually my first hiking trip, happened actually the first weekend after I became a Boy Scout. And so, up until that time, I really hadn't had any real serious camping experience. You know, in the Cub Scouts and the Weeblos, we would do little overnights, but it was pretty sterile as far as how it was set up. You know, everything was pretty much done for us. Now, that wasn't going to be the case. Now we were doing real camping and a real hike. And my very first weekend as a new Boy Scout, we were going to do a trail up in Kentucky called the Ox Cart Trail, and turned out it was a 21-mile hike, and I was only at the time 12 years old, and completely without any equipment. I didn't have any idea of what real camping was like yet, or hiking. So what did my mom do? She took me to the local camping outfitters and helped me basically pick up everything but the kitchen sink. Literally everything but the kitchen sink. So I had this huge pack, and I wish I could weigh all that stuff now to find out how bad it was. But it was almost as tall as I was. And of course, you know, my dad at the time was in the Army. So he gave me one of his downed Army sleeping bags, which weighed a ton, and an Army air mattress, which was huge. And every time I tried to blow that thing up, I would get dizzy for about 10 or 15 minutes. And it was pretty crazy. Now, of course, it was a late fall time, so, you know, of course, you know, my mom, worrying about me the way she did at the time, just packed me full of clothes and food. And the worst was it, she went out and bought me hiking boots. Now these were leather hiking boots, but they were bright red hiking boots. So, and you know, and cotton socks, you know, the kind the Boy Scouts wore at the time, which were green with a red ring at the top. So that was my first setup. So she literally gave me so much stuff and so much food that I literally had paper bags with me that I just had strapped to the outside full of stuff. So not only was the inside of the pack completely full of stuff, now I'm carrying extra bags on the outside full of stuff. So needless to say, it weighed a lot. And here is my little 12-year-old frame. Never hiking before. First time ever wearing these hiking boots. You would think I would have sworn off hiking after this event. So we get to the trailhead near Louisville, Kentucky. And we start off pretty much as a group. And there's about, I don't know, 15, 18 of us at the time. And, you know, the Scoutmasters are keeping us kind of lined up pretty well. And we're going along, you know, I got adrenaline kicking in. You know, here I am, the new guy in this troop of a lot of older boys. And there's only about 2 or 3 of us who are brand new in the troop. And you know, I'm doing my best, and some of the older guys were doing their best to kind of corral us. And for the most part, the trail meandered off side trails, but we're always close to roads. And it took us in some really cool places, and there were some historical stops along the way. And of course, the Scoutmasters would stop us and give us kind of a briefing on the location, you know, what was historically significant, which was really cool to learn. And so we kept making our way, but I slowly started slowing down and getting further and further behind. And so it was crazy to fathom now a 12-year-old with a pack that must have weighed about 40 pounds going for 21 miles. So as the day wore on and the miles clicked away, the group started to segregate into smaller little groups. And now I'll give it to the Scoutmasters. They did try really hard to assign an older scout to each group, so that way we kept some kind of authoritative figure in our little pods walking along. And so but as the day wore on, things got crazier and crazier as we got further and further away. You know, now, you know, I've gone through my water supply. I had this big round canteen, and which didn't make things any better as far as weight. And you know, we had to go and find water fountains and stuff to fill up. And again, this was way before Sawyer's water purification, and of course I didn't know to bring tablets or anything. Luckily I didn't get sick, but the water sources that we used a lot of times were fairly sketchy. And so as we continued down the roads, wound up getting so far behind that we had no idea if we were even going to make it to camp. And finally, our leader even kind of gave up on us, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna run ahead and see if I can catch up to one of the adult leaders and see if we can get you guys some help, because there's no way you're going to make it to the end of the trail and to the campsite in time." Now, at this point, my feet are just hamburger. Those hiking boots hadn't been broken in, and I'm just completely and utterly sore, but I can't quit, and because I got nowhere to quit to. So what I did, I just kind of had to grin and bear it and really develop a strong willpower at that time, which is pretty incredible for a 12-year-old. So finally, at about mile 19 and a half, we're on our way up an ascent, which leads up to the camping area. And we're just dog tired. The sun has already been setting. It's getting dark. We don't have headlamps. We don't have lights with us. I mean, I had a flashlight in my pack, but God forbid I was going to take my pack off. I was afraid to take my pack off. And so as it gets darker and darker, we're on this windy road up this hill, and here comes this truck, and turns out it's one of the scoutmasters, and he picks us up and has us hop in the back of the truck and takes us into camp. And oh my gosh, it was nirvana to finally get to sit down on the ground and take my boots off for the first time since starting this adventure. And you know, during the trip, my feet had gotten wet. You know, the socks were completely just soaked. And so what I didn't know, and it scared the heck out of me, was when I took the boots off, my feet were blood red. And I didn't know if it was a medical condition or what. But it turns out the dye in the boots, when it got wet, basically just leached in to the boot and got on my feet. So now my feet were dyed red, and they stayed that way for about 2.5 weeks, which was so funny because every pair of socks that I had for the next few days would just get dyed red from my feet as that wore out of my skin. And had to learn, you know, what it was to set up camp and all those kind of things. So that was my first hiking story. So, all right, if you wouldn't mind, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment down below telling me your story about how you got started hiking. And we'll see you out on the trail. Take care.